Man, this damn finale was crazy, and the ending had me gagged. Let's talk about it. Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to KRS TV. This is your boy Kenny, and this is How to Get Away with Murder, Season 5, Episode 15. And the name of this episode is Please Say No One Else Is Dead. This was a really damn good finale, and I cannot wait until Season 6, because the way that this shit ended had me like WTF all the way. So let me begin. Okay, the episode picks up where from the last episode we found out the identity of the guy who went to go see Nate Sr., and it happened to be Laurel's brother. We actually see the actual conversation that goes on between him and Nate Sr., and Nate Sr. immediately smoked him out the room. Like, if you coming up in here trying to polish a turd, you really think you doing something, don't you? Because what he's trying to do is trying to lure Nate Sr. away from Annalise in that he would represent him. And Nate Sr. wasn't having it. He was saying that you ain't even half of the person that Annalise is. And yeah, I might be an old man, but I have no problem boxing your ass up out of here. So he pretty much tells Nate Sr. before he leaves, you will regret this. So I'm already picking up, he definitely has something to do with Nate Sr.'s death. And it definitely plays out in this episode. So then back with the crew, we got Laurel, Frank, Annalise, Nate, and Bonnie. Them. They're pretty much watching the video footage, and they now included Laurel because it is Laurel's brother. And Annalise does not hold back and goes in on Laurel's. Like, it seems every time we turn around, your crazy ass family is trying to do some bullshit. And we see that Frank is defending her, and Annalise was like, don't sit here and defend her ass. I didn't want to hire her for the group any damn way. I only did it on the insistence of you, so obviously your penis made that decision. I'm like, Annalise was just not playing no games. And he was like, okay, fine, just blame me. She's like, I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just over this shit. I'm tired. I just want my life back. Ever since Laura's become a part of the team, all this crazy shit is happening, beginning with the death of Wes. We get a scene with Asher, Michaela, Connor, and Oliver. They're talking about Laurel's mom's hair that got delivered, to their front door. And they also know about what's going on with Laurel. And they're saying, like, do you think Laurel's brother has something to do with this? And it also comes up about, Michaela trying to find her parents. And then Laurel finally shows up and she says Annalise hates me and all this shit. And I'm like, but can you blame her though? I mean, it's like her life has been turned upside down, and most of it is due to your family and their shenanigans. Then we see that messy bitch, Talasco, goes to see Gabriel. She tells Gabriel that Annalise killed his father, which we all know is a damn lie. And then pretty much, she pulls out the file with his mom's ex-boyfriend. And he was saying, and she pretty much, used this as blackmail that, look, your mom could go to jail. So you really have a choice of who you're going to save here, Annalise or your mother. I'm like, oh, this bitch is evil. And she does even more, so I'm going to keep moving. So then we see that Annalise meets up with the governor. The governor is pretty much saying that, the FBI is investigating me. And, this whole thing all happened due to you and all of this shit. And pretty much Annalise just told her straight up, I don't know what's more fake, you or those damn phone records. And she said, so that's why you gave me, false, records saying that Emmett was a part of this and he had nothing to do with it. Yeah. And then she was like, oh yeah, and how did you find out about my adoption? oh, probably the same person who who pretty much, you know, docued these phone records is the same person that you used to find out about me. So, and then she's saying that, look, I'm innocent. You know, I was forced to do this. You just need to understand. I'm like, don't trust this bitch, Annalise, because the governor definitely got a bone to pick with you, and she's playing every type of manipulative, you know, law-abiding game to shut you down. So then, back at Kaplan and Gold, Tegan is on the phone with Annalise. She's letting Annalise know that the FBI is there, and they have taken in Emmett. And Annalise is telling Tegan, we need to help him. You need to do something. And she's like, look, the Castillos are probably framing him, and I don't want no parts of it. And, you know, you on your own on this one. And she's like, you know, so she pretty much told Annalise she's staying out of it. You know, due to the fact because she was the one who blew the whistle on Antares, if y'all remember. So then we get a scene between Nate, Frank, and Bonnie. Nate is still on edge, you know, because Frank is trying to say that, look, I looked over all of Miller's numbers, and this one number, it might be Xavier's number, but it's disconnected. And he was like, you know what? No more guessing. I need to get to the bottom of this. We need something solid. And we definitely see that Nate is still going through the loss of his father, and he's also kind of second guessing whether Miller may have been innocent in this whole thing. And in this episode, we find out the truth about Miller. See that we get a scene with Miller. He's on his way to his car. He's actually talking to his mother about Bonnie, and he gets cornered by Xavier, who's Laurel's brother, and he's asking, so do you want to be the DA? I mean, you're like an interim DA. I mean, that you don't even have money for your campaign, but I can arrange that for you. But he was like, but then Miller was like, well, like, why are you choosing me for? And he was saying that, look, you know, we can help you and we can back you, especially after, you know, what happened to Denver. You know, we was in his corner until Annalise killed him, and he was like, no, she didn't. And he was like, yes, she did. I got proof. And Miller said, if you got proof, why don't you take it to the FBI? He's like, no, I would rather put you in position so we can take her down together. You know, isn't that what you really want? And that the way to get back at her too is to go after her Supreme Court client, meaning Nate Sr. So I'm already seeing right here, this motherfucker is playing a very, very snake-like game, because he appears as a snake, because he's always slithering, and he always appears at night unexpected. So we see that Xavier has, you know, cornered Miller, and to that, you know, we're gonna use you to be the DA, but only with our backing will you get there. So then we actually have a scene with Asher and Michaela. Asher is really panicking because he's looking at Tabasco's, you know, board, you know, and he's freaking out about it. But Michaela's saying that, look, we can't think about that right now. We gotta focus. She gets a text from Gabriel. Gabriel wants her to come over, and that it's urgent. So she ends up leaving. Then we see that Laurel is with Connor and Oliver. She has filled out guardianship papers naming Connor and Oliver, you know, the guardians of Christopher in case something happens to her. And both of them are kind of going back and forth with this. I mean, Connor's like, look, I'm pathological, I can be selfish. But she's like, but I know how much you love Oliver, so I know that to be true. And he was like, well, come on, it was just a wedding. And then Oliver's like, wow, so I'm now questioning it. Was that even true at all? I'm like, them two are a damn mess. But she said that, look, I grew up in a house full of privilege. I had money. I had everything I wanted. But the one thing I didn't have is love. And I see love between the two of you. And if anything were to happen to me, I would want Christopher to be with loving parents who will love him unconditionally. So I thought that was pretty special. But then that shit kind of comes back. It kind of backfires later on. And I'm going to get to that. So then we see that Annalise goes to meet Emmett, you know, and he was like, who the hell let you in here? Because, you know, he's still kind of mad with her because after the last episode, they got into that big argument where he realized that Annalise and Tegan was accusing him of killing Nate Sr., which we now know he had nothing to do with. And he was saying, and she told him that, yes, I know about Jorge Castillo, you know, being a part of this. And the phone records were doctored by, you know, the governor and whatever. And he's like, I'm here to get you out of here so you can run for DA. So then we get a scene between Frank and Bonnie. And at this time, you know, Annalise is working on getting Emmett out of jail. So him and Bonnie go back and forth. And then he's trying to put in her head that, look, Miller did this. You need to stop beating yourself up about this. Miller did this. And like Bonnie just tells him that, look, he wasn't that kind of guy, Frank. You know, and then she thinks back when she was involved, when she was dealing with her sister Julie, how Miller was very supportive of her. And he was there for her the entire time. There's no way in hell he would have had all this time to plan Nate Sr.'s death when he was with me at that time. And then we see that, you know, Bonnie and Miller are having a phone conversation. We actually see that there really is a real love thing between the two of them. So after he gets off the phone with her, he goes through this like panic mode because he's kind of questioning, does he even really want to be the DA? Does he really want to cross this line? So then he calls Javier on a flip phone because it can't be tracked, and he pretty much says, okay, I'll do it. What do you need from me? And I'm like, what the fuck, Miller? Are you serious? But then I'm gonna get more. So then we see that Nate and his hot temper ass confronts the warden, and he was saying that, look, that footage I gave to Bonnie was like my last parting gift to the both of you. He was like, fool, you gave her that damn video footage to cover your own ass, and all bets are off unless you do this for me. And he says straight up, and he's like, okay, what? Then he says that, do you know about Javier Castillo visiting my father? And he was like, who? And then we see Nate getting mad. He's like, look, Miller was the only person I talked to in regards to your father. And then we see that Miller actually goes to see him and tells him that he wants Nate Sr. to be transferred at night. And then the warden was like, we don't transfer patients at night. And he was like, look, you need to make this happen. You know, I really need this to happen. We really need you to transfer him, because if we wait any longer, he's not going to have a spot. So he reluctantly agrees to do it. And then, so then he was saying that, so look, I had no parts in this. It is what it is. Nate, you know, checks him and was like, no, your guards are what responsible as the reason why my father's dead. And he was like, he probably pulled his gun. He's like, he didn't do that. He's like, come on, Nate, you were a cop. And you know there are chances that a perp is going to try to grab your gun. And according to mental illness cases, this happens a lot. And your dad was one of the worst. And then all of a sudden we see Nate's face. I'm like, Nate about to beat his ass. Because Nate is just so fucking hot-tempered since his father passed. We done seen him beat up a lot of people. We seen him beat up one of the guards. He beat the hell out of Miller, of course. And it's like he's just got a lot of this rage, and he's just been, you know, he's just been putting his fist in every damn body. We see that later on, Bonnie gets a call from Nate from an unknown number. We come to find out that Nate's ass is in jail. I'm like, Nate damn temper just gonna get his ass in trouble. And he pretty much tells Bonnie that, you know, that the warden only spoke with Miller on the case. and he said he forced him to transfer at night. And Frank again tells Bonnie Miller's guilty. But then again, we're going to come to find out why he's saying that, especially once all is revealed. So then we get a scene where Annalise is trying to get Emmett out. She has the flash drive proving that, it was Javier Castillo that went to go see Nate Sr. Also, it's also documented that, that the phone records were doctored and that Emmett had nothing to do with it. Pretty much, Annalise was like, look, I just gave you your person on the silver platter. My client could go. And he was like, oh, no, not so fast. Because we have questions, and if anything, they even looked at Emmett like, are you sure you want her to be your counsel? And he was like, what, you're afraid that she'll actually win? What's the deal? So they said that we found something in Emmett's office that is of concern to us, and it's the actual voice feed between Tegan and Annalise thinking that Emmett was guilty for killing Nate Sr. So then the FBI agent was like, so do you want to change your counsel now? And I was like, damn, that's messed up. I'm like, Emmett, why the fuck would you leave it in your office, you dumbass? But anyway, but then again, he didn't think that they was going to get raided by the FBI either, so, which is crazy. So then we see that that Michaela goes to see Gabriel, and he tells her that Carrasco, has gave him a file on his mom, and kind of, made him, pretty much gave him an ultimatum. He's either your mother or me. And he was saying that, what if my mom finds out? And Michaela was like, well, I'm pretty sure we can get to the bottom of this, and, your mother won't know anything. And he was like, no, I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about what my mom would find out who gave him the drugs. And immediately Michaela's like, you did this shit? And I'm like, see, this damn Gabriel got so much shit with him that I just can't with his ass. Like, dude, you coming up in here accusing them of shit, and nigga, you got a whole slew of damn secrets in your back pocket. He is Sam Keaton's son. Like, he's Sam Keaton's son all the way, because he is moving like his father, he acts like his dad, and he's a lying bastard just like his dad. Like, dude, so we come to find out this whole time we thinking that the guy died of an overdose, which could actually go back on your mom, and people think that your mother has something to do with it. The whole time you the one that killed her damn boyfriend. And I'm like, wow. So, but he says that, look, once you pass the bar and everything, maybe you can represent me one day. So, but Michaela was like, oh my God, you did this? And he was like, look, I need something because I don't want my mother to know about this. Because my mother didn't kill him, I did. So I don't want this to even get back to her. So could you please give me something on Sam Miller, anything? She's like, I don't have anything. And he's like, then why is Carrasco still hunting around? And she was like, I don't know. She's like, yes, you do. You all know what's going on. And she's like, no, we don't. And he's like, then why is Laurel, why did Carrasco offer Laurel immunity? And I'm like, oh, damn, now you dropping bombs. And Michaela is pissed. Michaela come in the house and she was like, Lola Castillo, get your ass down here right now. I was like, oh, see, that's that black woman coming in like, bitch, I'm about to fuck you up. So they confront Laurel about this shit. And, of course, Ash is there, Connor's there, and Oliver is there. And they immediately start to kind of flip on Laurel. Because they're like, oh, Laurel, you's about to get immunity to turn on us and shit so you can save yourself. And no, because if I would have did that, I would have been gotten immunity. But that's not what happened, and the reason why I didn't say anything because I didn't want this to happen. Don't you see what's going on? Carrasco came for me, I didn't bite, and now she's going after Gabriel, and now it's obvious we're giving her what she wants. She wants us to turn on each other. But she actually goes and gives them proof. She gets the baby blanket that's stained with Miller's blood, and she actually ends up burning it, and she tells them that, look, I could have turned this in a long time ago and could have gotten immunity, but I didn't do that because I'm loyal to all of you. So I was like, okay, Laurel got a plus in my book on this one, because you know normally I can't stand Laurel's ass. So we see that Annalise is at the jail to see Nate. She calls Tegan before she gets up there, and she's like, oh my god, Nate's in jail? She's like, yeah. But then she says, but look, I need you to help Emmett because the recording of the two of us talking, the FBI has it. And pretty much, again, Tegan was like, you know the Castillos. You know the Castillos. I'm terrified, and I'm not getting involved. And she was like, look, you are too smart and too strong to let these fools punk you now. We, like Emmett needs us, and you need to go there, and you need to help him. You know, and then she says that, look, I'm on my way. So Tegan's on her way to help Emmett. So then we get a scene with Annalise and Nate. And pretty much, Nate is like, so, are you going to get me out? And she said, well, Bonnie's working on that. And she was like, well, what about you? And he was like, look, I just barely shoved the guy. I'm like, really, Nate? And Annalise was like, well, that's not what the witnesses are saying, you know. And she says that, look, you are going to end up like your father, you know, up in a cell losing your mind if you continue to act like this. And he's like, I'm not going to end up like him. And he's like, well, if you keep on using your fist to try to get answers, we all going to end up in here. So you need to chill. And I'm like, finally, somebody said this shit to his ass, because he is so hot-headed that he's just been beating everybody's ass and cornering motherfuckers left and right. Because as soon as the damn warden tried to walk away, here go Nate. I'm like, Nate is just ready to just pounce on anybody in regards to his father's death. Then we see the actual female officer who killed Nate Sr. She gets into her car, and then all of a sudden we see that damn Frank comes behind her with a rope and starts to pull and starts to choke her. And she says that, look, you are going to tell me everything I need to know, or the next time this rope will be around your young son. So I'm like, Frank is going back to that gutter shit. So he pretty much chokes her out, and she confesses that, you know, he offered to pay us, and at first we didn't want to do it, but then we decided to go along with it, and they named Javier Castillo, you know, Laurel's brother. He paid them to kill, to execute Nate Sr. So it's really looking like Miller really has something to do with this. But let's keep moving. So we see that Tegan meets up with Emmett and the FBI, and she says she's not there to represent him because she was on the tape, but she's here to make a statement as a witness. And she also mentions that she's Jane Doe. And then they asked her, well, were you willing to go, or are you willing to state this under oath? And she said yes. And he tries to advise her not to do it, that, you know, you may lose, you know, client privileges and everything. And she was saying that only if what I say doesn't leave this room. So, yeah, we can do this. He was saying that, look, they're doing this because they are mad that they're trying to stop Emmett from running for DA. And then, of course, the FBI was like, well, what does that have to do with anything? Emmett said everything. Because the Castillo's family has always had their backhand in every DA of this city. And I, for one, could not be bought, so they want me out the way. And I'm like, yeah, it's all making perfect sense now. Because Laurel's family is one crooked, manipulative damn family. Like, they are insane. And they are thirsty for power. And they will annihilate anybody to get it. I mean, that's just how cold-hearted they are. And we see that Laurel is always resisting that, which is probably the reason why I can't stand Laurel, because Laurel has some of those bad qualities, but yet at the root of it, she's actually a good person trying to live a normal life. But coming from a family like that, how could you live a normal life? Alright, so we see that, you know, after, you know, Laurel burns up the blanket, they still feel some kind of way. It's like, oh no, boo-boo, we're not about to sing Kumbaya with your ass right now. But then Asher comes in, and he comes up with the idea that, look, there was a garbage man who was killed after dropping the bomb on the mob, and the FBI was supposed to give him protective custody, but they failed to do that. We can use the same thing about Laurel's mom, that she was supposed to be in witness protection, and yet here it is, we get her, the scalp of her hair dropped on our doorstep to let us know that, yeah, you know, the FBI wasn't doing their job, so we can use this to get Telasco fired. Immediately, Laura was like, no, this is a warning. If my brother finds out we went to the DA, he will kill me and Christopher next. Then we get a scene with Annalise and Frank. He lets her know that Gladden, you know, actually paid, that the guards were actually paid to kill Nate Sr. And he was like, well, how do you know that? He was like, I got my ways. And she was like, I thought you were going to be a better Frank. And he says, well, the rest of you can be better with me just being Frank. Like, I got to be true to my gangster shit. So I get where Frank was coming from with that. But then we see later on that conversation carries on even further. And he reveals more about that situation, especially when it involves Miller. And then we actually see that after this, well, pretty much she said that, you know, well, yeah, we got that, but the rest of it, we have to figure out. And she was kind of like, what the hell is the rest of it? That's what's going to be revealed more. He reveals more at the end of the episode. But then after this, she fucking calls Laurel up and she says that, Laurel, we need to join forces, and, you know, as you said before, we need to fix this, and we need to fix it for all of us. So then we see, I think, they go to New York, I think, and Laurel runs into Javier, and he was like, oh my God, I'm so happy to see you. And then Annalise was like, and what about me? Aren't you happy to see me too? I'm like, you better get it, Annalise. You better fucking serve it. And I was so here for that. So then after that, we see that Gabriel calls Michaela, and he leaves a voicemail saying that he's scared and alone, and maybe you can help, and then like, maybe you can help me, but if you don't, it's okay, I'm good, I've always been by myself and all of that. And of course Michaela's like, I really want to help him because he has nobody, you know. And pretty much right now it's her, Asher, Connor, and Oliver, and they're all deciding as to what to do. And Asher was like, look, Laurel said no, but fuck Laurel at this point, because I had a damn good plan, you know. And I'm like, yeah, but it may backfire, and we just need to form a collective, and the majority rules, you know. I think we need to take this damn package to the FBI and let them know what's going on with this. And I was like, wow. So she was like, yeah. And then Michaela was like, yeah, take action now and forgive later. And then here go damn Olive Oil with the bullshit, like, yeah, like you did with Simon. And then like damn Connor finally checked his ass. He was like, would you stop with that shit? Like, it worked, didn't it? Leave it alone. And then I'm like, it makes me think you probably had some feelings for Simon, because you just can't let this shit go. And it's really starting to get on my nerves, because as I said before, Simon would have continued to blackmail you guys, and he would have continued to hold things over your head. So he pretty much says, we'll vote, and whatever the majority decides, that's what we'll do. And we come to find out what they end up doing. So then the shit really gets heated between Annalise, Laurel, and Javier. He's like at first speaking Spanish to Laurel, trying to decode what he's trying to say, and she's like, you need to stop this. And he's like, no. Javier was like, she, you know, tell him about Annalise, she destroyed our family. She's like, Floyd, please, your family been destroyed. You know, you wanted to hurt me, so you went after Nate Sr. and you had him killed. And he was like, if I really want to hurt you, I would do it. You know, and I was just like, oh, this motherfucker got the nerve. Like, he's a straight up asshole. And it's making me realize he wants to be the head of the Castillo family. He is cool with the fact that his father's locked up. He wants to be the head. So now he's trying to take over. But the thing is, Annalise called him on his shit. She was like, you're pretty much the pathetic child. Laurel was the chosen one because Laurel is smart, she's strategic, she's quick on her feet. You were the loser. So now you're trying to take over because your father always saw you as the pathetic little boy who could never do anything right. And I was like, damn, Annalise is getting his ass. And we can just see he's getting pissed off more and more because Annalise is reading the fuck out of him. Then he was, and then like when he had said that, you know, if I really wanted to do something to you, Annalise, I would have. She's like, oh, what you gonna do? You gonna burn up my house? They already did that shit. Or, you know, scout my head. And then Laura was like, yeah, like you did Mom. And we saw the whole time he never denied that he didn't do something to the mother. He just kept trying to flip it on Laura. It's like, well, Laura, you the last one to see her. And she's like, yeah, I saw her last Christmas. And she knew me and Christopher were in danger. And that's why she literally, you know, scratched. So that's where the scratches came from. Because I thought she did something to her mother. Her mother was scratching, pleading with her not to leave because she was afraid that something, that her and Christopher would be in danger. So why would she think that? And she's like, oh my God, you have literally turned into Dad. We actually see the actual phone conversation between Miller and Javier. And he was like, and we see in that conversation, he tells him, make sure that Nate Sr. will be delivered Thursday morning. But what Miller ends up doing is that he had him, you know, he asked for him to be transferred that night, Wednesday evening, to avoid running into the Castillos. But they called his bluff. See that after that, we see that Miller is shaken up after seeing that Nate Sr. was killed. Javier calls him and was like, yeah, I see that you chose to go your own route. Well, that was pretty cool, but we just decided to move a little ahead as well. And I'm gonna let you know, you ever pull some shit like that again, I will kill everybody that you love. Your girlfriend first, meaning Bonnie. And I'm like, oh, this motherfucker is evil. Like, we need to fucking chop his head off because this motherfucker is just ready to just devour all of them to get what he wants. While he's having this conversation with Annalise, all of this is being revealed that he practically bullied Miller, and Miller tried to outthink him, but not thinking, okay, this is a criminal family, and this is who represented Denver. As much as you think as much of a bad person Annalise was, Denver was really the bad person, and you're seeing the forces that was working with Denver. Annalise told his ass that you're not gonna get away with this. He's like, how do you know I haven't already gotten away with it? Being real smug and being real smart aleck with the fact that you killed a black man because he didn't take your bait and he saw you for what you were, a snake in nice clothing. So we see that afterwards, you know, Annalise was like, oh, war continues, but you lost this battle, boo-boo. And like, the FBI got enough information to lock you and your pathetic ass up. And she walked out, and I was like, Annalise, you better serve black girl realness. You better do it. And then Laura was like, let me go. You and Dad both. And then afterwards, we see that this fool gets on the phone and he calls somebody, and this motherfucker is calling Governor Burkhead. The two of them are working together, which is something that we all probably were thinking within this episode, that he's working with someone else, and they said, okay, they know too much now, so now we need to go to plan B. And pretty much the governor's like, yeah, she's left us no choice. Pretty much we see that Asher comes in with some tequila. We see that Connor and Oliver are just completely spaced out looking at this laptop. Obviously something's up. But Asher's like, hey, you know, we got a fucking FBI agent fired. Because what happened is that Asher took the actual wig, well, not the wig, but took, you know, the actual scalp to the FBI, and they named Javier being the person that dropped it off. So he notices that the two of them are just completely stoned, like completely just like out of it, and he was like, please don't tell me nobody else is dead. And they said that no, but they found Michaela's birth father. His name is Dwight. And he's like, okay, it doesn't sound like a bad name. But then they said that Annalise knew him. I'm like, oh, that's going to be some shit right there. So I'm like, wow. So then Michaela goes to Gabriel and lets them know that they got Telasco fired. So he pretty much says that, look, you know, until another FBI agent gets assigned the case, you're good. And next you know, they start kissing, and then they eventually, she's like, we need to feel good right now. And she kind of gives in, and they both end up about to get it in. So then we see that this bitch Telasco, while she's packing up her office, this bitch calls Gabriel's mother. I'm like, you evil bitch! She is really coming for them. So then we see Tegan and Emmett. You know, Tegan is, Emmett's finally out of jail. They're at Kaplan and Gold. You know, he's trying to, you know, drink and turn up. But she pretty much says that, yeah, we're clear from the FBI, but not the Castillos. And he was like, you want a drink? And she's like, I'm a gin girl. But I'll be right back, though, because she's going to get her a bottle of gin and go up and turn up with him. But we can definitely see she's still shaking up because she knows how that family moves. So then we see that the guard meets up with Bonnie, and pretty much she says that, you know, they've been threatening me about this whole Nate Sr. thing. I want to tell the truth. And she's like, so you want a deal? And she was like, yes. So she says, so who gave you the order? And she says, Miller. Then it goes back to that conversation where Frank and Annalise talk about the rest of it. And she says, what's the rest of it? And he mentions to her, Miller tried to outthink the Castillos by having him delivered at night when they wanted him to do it Thursday morning. But they outthought him and had him killed that night. So Miller was innocent the entire time. And Annalise was like, we can't let Bonnie and Nate know this, because these two are grieving, and when they find out that the man was innocent, they ain't gonna be able to stomach that shit. So I already get it. So then we see, earlier, before she meets with Bonnie, Frank corners her and lets her know that, look, you're gonna tell them that Miller did it, and you're not gonna deter from that confession, because Frank knows the truth, that really it was Javier, but, you know, we need to say it's Miller, you know, so we can kind of keep, you know, Bonnie and Nate together. And then we see that finally they get Nate out of jail, and him and Bonnie are there, and he's saying that, look, you need to stop feeling sorry for yourself now. He did this. And they kind of hug. And I still think something's going to happen between Bonnie and Nate. We just have to keep watching. Probably season 6, something probably will. So then we see, while all this is going on, that bitch, Governor Burkhead, decides to do a press release talking about the FBI has been, you know, raiding my offices and raiding everything. And, you know, I feel, you know, I just want to say that I am 100% innocent. I have nothing to do with this, but I do have a person of interest for you, and his name is Emmett Crawford. Next thing you know, we look up, Emmett's having a damn heart attack in his office. So they are really trying to shut Emmett down from ever becoming DA. But then not only that, with him being accused of this shit, that could ruin his position at Kaplan and Gold too. So it's like he literally has a heart attack. And then we see that after Annalise and Laurel leave talking to Javier, they have a moment where Laurel tells Annalise, I thank you for everything that you've done for me. You know, I thank you for being in my corner. But then we see that Annalise gets a call from Tegan. Tegan saying that, look, they are putting this all over the news that Emmett did this shit. They are really pushing this. And I'm supposed to be back upstairs and I'm supposed to be drinking with him. But then we saw that, yeah, his ass was literally having a heart attack in his office. So then next thing you know, after she gets off the phone with Tegan, she turns around. Laurel is nowhere to be found. And Frank comes to the house, and he says, where's little Christopher? He's like, we just put him down. He's upstairs sleeping. And we see that Connor and Oliver have this connection with Christopher that makes them want to become parents. We'll see how that plays out. But then they go upstairs, the baby gone too. And I'm like, see, Asher should not have fucking did that shit by taking that wig, because Laurel tried to tell y'all asses, if he finds out y'all went to the FBI, he's gonna come after me and Christopher, and that's exactly what happened. And that's where this shit ended. She's going around screaming, Laurel! Laurel! Laurel ain't nowhere to be found. It's like she disappeared just like that. That's how them Castillos work. They quick and they grimy. So we just gotta wait until season 6 to see what happens. But that's what I have. If I missed anything, put it down in the comments. I'd love to talk to you about it. But subscribe to my channel. Click that bell to get notifications every time I drop a video. Also, follow me on all of my social platforms. I have them all listed in the description box. Also, like this video, comment on this video, and share this video. And I'll be back with the season 6 premiere of How to Get Away with Murder. So until next time, everybody, take care.